Today, I'm interviewing Sarah Bradshaw of Sarah Bradshaw Photography, and we're going to be talking all about the top wedding trends for 2024. So listen in and enjoy. So Sarah and I have kind of bumped into each other at different industry events in the past, I would say a couple years, and I've always enjoyed her work and am a subscriber to her newsletter, which we will link in the description below. But recently she sent out a newsletter that referenced 2024 wedding trends. And so I absolutely loved it and had to have Sarah on to interview her all about that. But before we get into the trends, let's talk about, Sarah, how did you get into wedding photography?
Well, first off, I want to say thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Let's see, my story. Many years ago, I was living and working in Chicago in the nonprofit space. And it was a great company, a great organization that did some super cool thing. I was doing like conference and event coordinating for them. But it was a pretty toxic work environment. And one of my coworkers had a camera and she lent it to me a couple of different times, sort of as art therapy, sort of as like a coping mechanism, or like, you need to get out of the office, go like spend some time. She taught amateur photography. And she pulled me aside one day and she's like, Sarah, you have an eye. You might want to consider doing this. And as my work situation got more and more toxic, and I was like, I need to leave, I started saving money for a camera and decided that was going to be my next phase. Saved up all my money, bought my camera the day that I flew home from Chicago. I'm from Virginia. So moved back in with my parents, took a bunch of courses, worked at Starbucks, did the whole starving artist thing for a while. My goal was to do nonprofit international photojournalism. And I wanted to travel the world and tell beautiful stories of good things that are happening. You know, we see news cycles all of the time that are very depressing, lots of doom and gloom. And I believe in my core that there's as much that is true and good and worthwhile that exists in the world and that happens as there is bad and terrible. And the more we look at the bad and terrible, the more we see it. And the more we look at the good and the beautiful, the more we see that. So I wanted to tell those good stories. And I know there's a lot of people who are, doing good work around the world, and they need those stories told. So my goal was to travel internationally and spent a bit of time doing that. Spent some time in Kenya, spent some time in Thailand, and loved the work, but very quickly grew weary of the starving artist.
Yes.
So there are two things that like took me off of that road. One of them was recognizing that I'm the kind of person who needs deep roots to be like deeply connected in a community, like with relationships with the people around me, in order to feel like I'm thriving in my inner self. So I realized I needed to be like in one location and not living out of a suitcase, couch surfing. I needed steady relationships and to live in one place. So that kind of was like, maybe I shouldn't be on the road as much. And the other thing is I realized that at this moment where I'm standing in line at Starbucks, counting out coins in my purse to see if I had enough money to buy a short coffee so that I could use their internet for 2 hours. Because this is back before Starbucks had free internet. You got internet access for 2 hours if you bought a coffee. And so I was like standing in line, like, I need to use the internet. Do I have enough coins in my purse to like buy the cheapest thing that Starbucks sells? And I was like, this just is not sustainable. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like a grown woman. I can't do this. Like, this doesn't work. So the whole freelance thing was like, it just kind of wore off quickly. I decided to pick up weddings to kind of, I started doing portraits and then thought, I think weddings pay more. So I'm going to see if maybe that can help fund my international travels. And by the second wedding that I shot, I had fallen head over heels in love. And it scratches that itch for me of telling a good story that is a beautiful story, that is something that is good and beautiful and true, that supports life, that it is life affirming, and it has a legacy attached to it. So there's there's a meaning to it. It's not just a beautiful picture. Not that there's anything wrong with just beautiful pictures, but like there's a kind of cementing that
Mhm.
wedding photography provides to a relationship. So it fits that, desire for good and desire for doing something that's kind of beyond just me in the work. And it also allows me to, provide for my family. So wedding photography was it was the thing that I had been looking for. I just didn't know it. So I shot my first wedding August of 2008. So just celebrated 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And I spent a little bit of time still traveling internationally. But then by the like middle of 2010, I was like, this is my full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah. So we both started kind of in the industry somewhat around the same time. I shot
Mhm,
my first wedding in 2010.
mhm.
Um, and definitely starving artist. I did not make money at first, but it definitely it was the same thing, the itch that I was looking for, the thing like it was exactly what I needed and what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I know this is a little bit of a curveball, but we both I believe love uh anything British, anything Ralph Lauren. I
Yes.
think we have a similar love for those. But I saw you post something yesterday and I purposely did not look it up, but it was talking about, I believe, Academia. So tell me more about this.
Well, I just discovered it yesterday, so I don't have a lot. I'm not very educated. I did like a 1 hour long rabbit trail on it.
Yeah.
Um, it's an interior design aesthetic. You
Hmm.
hear core attached to um, aesthetics a lot, right? Like Barbie core or cottage core or
Yes.
farmhouse core, right? Like so, and it means an intensive saturation or like full on commitment to a specific style. And
Hmm.
I've never really known what to call my style. People tend to like my home.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
I like my home. I feel very comfortable there, but I have a specific style that is not super popular. It is very Ralph Lauren inspired.
Hmm.
And I've never known what to call it. I would always just say, "Oh, I'm a modern traditionalist," or I'm not a maximalist. I'm just like like a classicist. Like I've got an embarrassing number of busts in my house.
Yes, I have
Um,
several as well.
yeah, I mean, I bought a whole collection of little ones.
I love it. Yeah.
Anyway, so I have like 10 or 15 of those. Um, and an embarrassing number of other ones in my house. But I was on Pinterest looking up something yesterday, and one thing popped up that talked about dark academia and then light academia. And I think dark academia is a much more trending um, design aesthetic and style. And it usually means like dark, moody toned wood, um,
Uh,
classically or traditional toned wood, dark, moody colored walls,
mhm.
lots of antiques and uh, something that it makes me think a little bit of a New England academics. You think like what would like
Harvard.
1940s Harvard, law
Yeah.
professor, what would their library look like, and
Yeah.
then just like throw that into an entire house. And I don't like the dark so much. I like being in dark. We do have like my dining room is a very, very dark, inky navy blue, and our study, which is my husband's office, is it's called Alligator Alley by I think Sherwin
Ooh.
Williams. It's a beautiful mossy, moody green, but the rest of our house is like light colored walls like this.
Hmm.
But I love the gallery walls, the leather furniture, the antique, anything you can find, marble topped, dressers, and
Yeah.
I like the old things. I'm an old soul, so it just to me like light academia just looks like light old soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that term because I kind of waffle between that and a little bit of more on the cottagey side.
Mhm.
Um, but I love that term. Now I'm gonna have to go down a whole rabbit hole myself and just take a look at it.
It just makes sense, right?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah, it
yes,
does.
yes,
Absolutely.
yeah. I
100%.
felt like I read it and I saw one picture of it and I was like, ah, my soul says yes. This is me.
There you
This
are.
is
I
me.
found you.
There I am. Yeah, exactly.
So that, that type of style kind of leads into the whole discussion that we're having today, which is about trends. And what trends do you love for this year?
Um, one, yeah. So the topic of trends is interesting. I've had many friends, many long discussions with friends about trends. I'm not a trendy person, but I like to be trend aware. And I think
Yes.
you and I are the same here. So
Yes.
I want to know what the trends are. I don't necessarily want to commit to them. I love a timeless aesthetic. And I think the word timeless is a weird word because everything is time bound, right? And I think
Yeah.
the desire to have a timeless wedding is a good desire in the sense that you want it to be relevant 50 years from now, but you also want it, you are at a place in time, like the year is 2023, and you
Mm-hmm.
do want your kids to be able to recognize that you lived in a certain time, right? So like timeless is an interesting word in that sense. Um, Rabbit trail, sorry. When it comes to looking at trends though, I love things that feel like they make sense,
Yeah.
whether in this time frame that I'm living in or, 30, 40 years from now. So
Mhm.
I like good quality.
Yeah.
I like craftsmanship and excellence. And I think a lot of things that are trendy um, tend to be disposable,
Yes.
either in its use or in its application. And I want something that can be passed down. I love legacy. I love heirlooms. I love things that will last. It's more sustainable. It's more nostalgic. So, yeah. So trends for this year that I like when it comes to the wedding world, I'm loving some of the resurgence of like in menswear, double-breasted jackets. I like
Yes.
so into them, and I absolutely love that we're seeing them all over the place. I think like a classic tux, you can like it never gets old. It always looks good, and I mean, you look at the guys from Downton Abbey, they're set in the
Mhm.
1910s,
Yeah.
and you just like change the tape around the leg a little bit, and you could show up, red carpet at you know any premiere and still look relevant. So like a
Yeah.
black tux can never go away, but I love that the double-breasted jackets are coming back.
Hmm.
It fits the academia look that I
Yeah,
have
it
so much. It really does.
does.
I also love that so many celebrities in particular are embracing the vintage Chanel
Hmm.
inspired work, like a lot of we're seeing a lot of like the good stuff from the 90s coming back, which feels
Yeah.
weird that that's coming back because I'm like I remember when that was here. But it's sweet to see it coming back. I feel like the trend towards quiet luxury,
Yes.
Sophia Richie's wedding, is like a prime example of that. Or Sophia Richie in general, just like everything she embodies, the trend towards quiet luxury and understated um embrace just of like simplicity and the things that you love
Hmm.
is very refreshing, um, because I think anybody can apply it regardless of your economic status.
Yes.
You can take the trend and take the look and create it from something you find, secondhand or something you find at any mainstream store you can walk into, or you
Hmm.
can invest in the high dollar. And because most things are unbranded and also fairly neutral, as long as you have good quality fabrics, you can wear it and look really classic, and wonderful. So I love that. And we're seeing that come out in weddings. Um, I did bridal fashion week in April and saw so much lace, very traditional lace, very yeah, just old school. Like I think we
Yeah.
went through a very long season where most brides wanted a cleaner fabric and
Hmm.
with interesting silhouettes, and we're just getting back to like very traditional ball gowns with simple fabrics and then lots of very traditional lace, and it's beautiful. And I think it's really interesting that brides are asking for that again. There's a resurgence of tradition,
Yeah.
and resurgence of the classics that it's making me really happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Same. So now your article um that you wrote or blog that you wrote talking about next year and predictions for next year,
Hmm.
which I feel like is always difficult to really forecast well, what's coming for 2024. But I felt like you referenced a lot of things that were kind of starting to move towards that. So in that, what do you feel like 2024 we're going to see a lot of, which will also affect, of course, 25, because it just has a trickle down effect.
Yeah, it does. So I think that a few of the things that I mentioned in the article are just come from me looking at what's trending now and trying to understand why. So
Yeah.
so I one of my core values is understanding. I want to like get to the bottom of and figure out the puzzle of everything that I see. Is that curious? I'm very
Yeah.
curious. So when I see a trend and I'm like, I don't understand this, like what on earth is happening right now? I want to understand it more.
Yeah.
So for some of the things, like we saw Western chic kind of take the world by storm over the last couple of years. When I started
Mhm.
asking why, and I started looking at things that are trending, um, well, like you start looking at TV shows that
Yeah.
have taken Yellowstone has taken the world by storm.
It
Okay, so
has.
there's no surprise that there's like a Ralph Lauren aesthetic that is suddenly super popular. Like the Ralph Lauren Western aesthetic is
Hmm.
super popular. And then to see a lot of people, I think, particularly during COVID, people who had second homes in the West somewhere
Hmm.
retreated to them.
Yeah.
So those places became a really treasured place instead
Hmm.
of just a vacation home. Not that that was not a treasured place before, but they became even more special. And
Yeah.
so people wanted to then, oh, well, we might as well have our wedding here. We've had so many sweet moments here as families. And then, we got engaged here and we like quarantined here during COVID. So like, let's go ahead and have our wedding here. So I think that the correlation or the connection between Yellowstone taking the world by storm and
Hmm.
the number of people who have property in the West that was a little bit more distant from. I mean, I had a number of clients who they lived in New York City or they lived somewhere in an eastern city. One was in Philly, one was in DC, and their families all had, it's like one had a property in Vail and one had a property in Wyoming and another had a property in like South Dakota somewhere. And they all like, yeah, we just lived at our parents' second house all throughout COVID. We had internet, so we were good.
Yeah.
So I think that that was another reason that the whole Western chic really became a thing.
Loaded.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and we saw, I mean, Amalfi Coast has always been a really big, um, popular thing, but
Yeah.
seeing the White Lotus season two,
Hmm.
I think really made it even more popular. And
Absolutely.
I keep hearing, so my one of my predictions is that we're going to see a lot of Southeast Asian weddings, or South Asian in general, weddings that happen in the Southeast Asia region and Asia Pacific. Because I keep hearing rumors that White Lotus season 3 is going to be filmed there. So they've mentioned Thailand, they've mentioned Bali as like possibilities, and I think that there's I think that might
That's
move
going to be a
everyone
push
there.
to have people going, and that being the next destination place
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I think
after Amalfi.
we also see Barbie. Barbie core was a thing all year long because of the
Yes.
anticipation of the movie. I think we're still going to see that applied in 2024, even
Hmm.
though I think the Barbie craze is kind of over now, but I think people are we're still going to see the trickle down effect of that. So I think pink is
Yes.
still going to be a big thing. Pink has always been a bridal color, but I think pink is going to be an even bigger thing in 2024 for that reason.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I
Yeah.
think one other thing I didn't mention in that blog post is the 90s are vintage now. And
Yes.
this
Which
is
is so
crazy,
strange.
bizarre to me. But the 90s are vintage and Gen Z loves the 90s. We see
Yep.
a lot of 90s movies that are being remade. We see a lot of 90s trends that are resurfacing.
And
Um,
NSYNC is coming back.
and you guess what on earth is happening? Hold me back. Um, well, even walking through Target, you see things. I was like, I wore that in high school, and that was not that long ago.
Yeah.
And it's here. So I think I've seen a trend in bridesmaids attire, both in
Hmm.
the fabrics and the shape of dresses. Slip dresses are totally back.
Yep.
Do not love them personally. I think they look good on very few people, but
Yeah.
they're back. And it's because of the love for the 90s. So yeah, that's one of the predictions that didn't make it into the blog post, but yeah.
Yeah. And I would agree with you. My 10-year-old daughter has come home and asked for like the two bangs, the two pieces that come
Yeah.
down while she has a ponytail. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh, honey.
Oh goodness. So I in reading your thought process in that article, and we'll definitely link it below in the description for everybody that wants to go read it. It just felt so very spot on. And what planners or designers do you feel are pushing into those trends that were in that article for next year? Who do you feel like is really leaning hard into those trends?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the other trends that I mentioned in that article is a higher emphasis on really elevated food and beverage experiences. And I
Yes.
think that we've already seen that in the wedding industry, especially in like the premier and luxury wedding industries for years
Yes.
now. But I think we're going to see an even greater emphasis on that, particularly with planners who are there are two categories they fall into in my head. One, those who are really motivated or driven by residential interior design as an inspiration for their spaces,
Yes.
because if they're designing for it to feel like a home or like a restaurant, then there's a correlation between that and the entertaining or the hospitality experience of the guests in general, not just to wow the guests, but also to provide a comfortable space for the guests. So I mean, I think when I think of those who are residential design driven, Gregory Blake Sams is very high on the list there. I think for
Absolutely.
those who excel in that, Augusta Cole is definitely there as well. Arnie Walker, she is DC based. I don't think quite as well known, but 100% there with her clients and the designs that she has. Pineapple Productions in the DC area does that really well too. I think Lori Aarons does that really
Mm-hmm.
well. And of course, there are many others, but like Gregory Blake Sams and Augusta Cole are probably the top two in my head for when it comes to a residential design that's really well applied. Oh, Calder Clark, she's in Charleston. She does a really,
Yeah.
really good job with that. And
Yeah.
then when it
And
comes
I've seen
to,
some of their stuff that they've done recently. So based in Savannah. But
yeah,
yeah, they are really good at
yeah,
that
they're really, really
particular
good at that.
aesthetic.
Yeah. And then when it comes to a general food and beverage experience, like a high emphasis on that, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think Allison and Brian are probably premier there. Um, do you I one, I just adore them. We haven't met in person, but I love every single thing that they do. I think Jason Fitzgerald in Atlanta is really good
Yes.
at that as well. And for both of them, they are not pretentious people.
Mm-hmm.
They just care so much about a good experience for their clients. They're very down to earth, very approachable, and very kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just really excel at that and have such a love for food as part of their personal cultures,
Yeah.
love for the food and beverage experience as part of their personal cultures. I think that serves their clients really well, and they tend to attract people who want to provide that same really elevated food and beverage experience to their couples.
Yeah. I want Jason to just write a cookbook
I love her so much. Yeah,
or a food blog of some
I
kind
know.
so that
I know. I know.
can because I yeah, the everything on her, if y'all are not following her, go follow her Instagram stories always make me hungry.
Yes. Drool, literal drool.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the big elephant in the room, which you and I have had this conversation before. But that is, how important are trends?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I mentioned earlier that I personally am committed to being trend aware, but
Yeah.
not trendy myself. I think trends are important because they do tell us about our time and place, right?
Mhm.
I think there are some trends that are completely ridiculous and stupid and should just go by the wayside, you know? A lot
Yeah.
of a lot of TikTok trends. Um, I think that trends are fun if you enjoy them. And I
Yes.
think, again, it's good to be trend aware, especially for those of us in the business space. It's good for us to be aware of what our clients are attracted to or being influenced by, what's shaping their idea of excellence and shaping their idea of customer service, shaping their understanding of what is like a standard, an industry standard, so what they should expect.
Yes.
Um, I do think that any person, and then this would go for clients or vendors, any person who's doing something simply for the trend may
Mhm.
have I would question the place of that priority for them.
Yeah.
um
Or the
I,
stress that it places on the couple or the planner of feeling like you must do something because it is trendy and because you've seen it at multiple places.
yeah, I mean, I think the idea I say this to my clients who are considering trying to make the decision about whether or not to do a first look. I did a
Mhm.
first look with my husband. You could consider a first look trendy. I don't think it's trendy. People have been seeing each other. I mean, I had a friend who's been married 40 years and she's like, "Oh, we did a first look at our wedding, and they got married in like Mississippi or something. So I don't think it's new. It's just became a newer thing
Mm.
with the advent of blogs. It was an idea that people who had not done them were suddenly introduced to this idea of first looks. Um, when a couple is trying to decide whether or not they do one, I always tell them, if you're doing it simply for the photos, then I
Mhm.
don't think that's a good enough reason to do it. Like if you want to do it because you like want to see your spouse and you want to like take care of that jitters, or you want to exchange private vows, or you want to like do it for you. Don't do it just for
Yes.
pictures. And I would say the same thing about any trends. Do you want to change your dress? Do it if you want to, but don't
Right.
do it because it's trending. Like that,
Yeah.
following a trend is a really bad reason to do something.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. Do you want to make TikTok videos with your bridesmaids when they're getting ready? If you do that because you want to and it comes from a place of joy, do it.
Mhm.
If it comes from a place of obligation or, fear of social suicide or um, fear of, I don't know, losing popularity or desire to gain popularity, like I'm very against that.
Yeah. And same. I
Yeah.
feel like if it is going to place a burden on you, then don't. Um,
It's all
yeah,
about what your priorities are, right? Like my
exactly.
priorities are relationships first
Hmm.
and everything else comes after that. And I
Yes.
tend to attract clients who have that as their primary as well. So I don't deal with this that much with my clients. But I would hope that every one of my clients would make sure that the thing they're most excited about is just getting married.
Yeah,
Um, so,
exactly. At the end of the day, that's the purpose.
yeah.
That is the purpose. Okay. So tell me, you've had a great year. You just got published in Wedlocks
Did.
as of last week, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
And so what is something you are most excited about for next year?
So next year is an interesting year for me. I think 2024 is an interesting year for most people in the wedding industry right now because there's a lot of
Yes.
uncertainty. And I'm excited about the possibilities with that. And that may sound like a weird, I don't know. What are you excited about? I'm excited about possibility, but it's true. There's
Yeah.
I'm going through a lot of personal growth in my
Hmm.
business, in my personal life right now. And 2024 is a year with a ton of question marks. And in the past that would have made me very, very fearful. And I'm just excited. I'm just
Yeah.
really excited about what might come.
I think that is for a lot of people. Like
But
there's a sense of adventure and excitement and
yeah,
possibilities. I think it will
yeah.
be the year of possibilities.
Yeah, I have a lot of dreams for next year, and who knows if any of them will come to pass, but I feel very open-handed with it. Um, I'm excited about I'm doing Bridal Fashion Week again in October, and I'm excited about doors that has opened for me, that doors that opened in April. Um,
Mhm.
I'm excited for more doors. I'm excited for the things I don't know yet.
Yeah.
For the clients that haven't booked with me yet, but will, for the travel opportunities, for the creativity that I get to experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just it just feels like I'm in a place of a lot of anticipation and I'm excited. I'm excited about that.
That's a good feeling. That's a really
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
feeling. Okay, last question. What do couples need to know, must knows, when it comes to weddings in general? Like what are some things that you feel like they need to know?
It's a good question. Um, so that my number one go-to response to a question like this
Hmm.
is comes from being a photographer. And my answer is that there's a lot that I can do to make
Hmm.
a wedding day wonderful. The thing that they most need to do is to work on priorities and relationships. Like
Yeah.
I can make you look so beautiful. I
Hmm.
cannot heal your relationship with your mom.
Yeah.
So if she's in the room and stressing you out, I can't fix that.
Yeah.
Um, there's this reality that I think most people don't understand about photography, and that's Our hearts have emotional muscle memory. They have a muscle memory. And when our memories do, those memories impact, that muscle memory impacts our emotions and vice versa.
Yeah.
How you feel when a photo is taken is how you will feel subconsciously when you see that photo again. It can be the most like objectively beautiful portrait of you ever taken. And if you were uncomfortable because your dress was pinching in a weird place, or because, you know, a bridesmaid just said a weird comment, or you were feeling awkward or fearful about, you know, walking down the aisle, then you will remember that. Your subconscious will remember that when that photo is taken. So the best preparation that you can do leading up to your wedding is to like work on your heart.
Yeah.
Make sure that like the marriage you're stepping into is sweet and sound and has a good foundation. That the people who are close to you in your life, that you have healed and whole relationships with all of them. Like skincare is great. Do your skincare regimen, but that is not going to be the thing that's going to make you look and feel your best on your wedding day. Like tend to your heart during your engagement. Grow those relationships that you want to invest in for, you know, decades. Make sure that those relationships, the people around you, are people who love you, truly love you, not just love being near you, and who are supportive, and do what you can to make sure your heart is in a good place, because it shows in the pictures. It really does. And as talented, Meredith, as you and I are with our cameras, and as good as we are at helping people enter their wedding days with joy and with peace by the way that we pose them or give cues, I cannot change someone's heart, and that's the thing that shows the most in pictures.
It does.
It does. So they say, you know, picture is the window, the eyes are the window to the soul, and the camera is the thing that captures those eyes. There's that connection there, and I can't affect the things that's inside. Only you can. And that's the thing I always want to, like, this is a great platform to say that. It's awkward to like say that in a consult with a bride. I'm like, hey, do your homework, work on your heart, you know. But that's the thing I really wish couples knew, that like none of the other things matter. What color your flowers are, whether you do peonies or roses, you know, whether your bridesmaids are wearing slip dresses or classic ball gown, you know, mini ball gowns, or knee-length dresses or floor-length dresses. Like, who cares? Like, that's not the thing that matters. Your relationships matter. And if your relationships have conflicts or burdens that are unresolved, it's going to show up. It will. And for you to have the very best day possible, that means the relationships have to be in the best place possible.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And you and I have seen that, I think, over and over again in different aspects of the wedding day. And it is absolutely true. Over and over again.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Well, my friend, I have loved having you come on and chat on trends and things like that. And I can't wait for us to be able to meet in person again. It's been a while. So thank you for coming on here. Where can people find you? Where do you like to hang out best that they can communicate?
I love being on Instagram. I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I do love connecting with people there. So at Sarah Bradshaw Photo, they can find me there. I always answer my DMs and love to chat with people there. If you ask me a question, I will answer it, usually in voice memo. So I apologize in advance. But then you can also, I have several different newsletters. I've got my monthly newsletter that I send out. That's the one where Meredith saw the trends. And then I also have a business owners only newsletter that is every other week, where I just offer, you know, it's like summaries of books that I'm reading or encouragements, you know, just to help you grow in your business. And that's another place that I'll send Meredith the link to that as well.
Yeah, we will put that in the description below. Again, Sarah, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with everyone.
Thanks for having me. I loved it.
Absolutely. I hope you enjoyed this video of Sarah and I chatting all about the upcoming trends for 2024's weddings. If you like this video, hit subscribe, the notification bell for any new videos that are coming out, as well as a thumbs up so we know to make more videos just like this.